Welcome to the third part of a four-part video cast covering Power Metal Resources, EPIC code POW. Chief Executive Paul Johnson joins me once again to discuss the components of the business. We've of course looked already at the spin-out projects and exploration. Today we're looking at financing, and in the final part we'll be looking at the group's strategy. So Paul, welcome once again. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Alan. How about you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you very much. So we're looking today at the group financing model. Of course, we've looked at the spin-outs and the exploration, and now you're going to tell us about how this is all structured and put together. So I'm going to bring up a slide for you to talk through. So over to you.
Yeah, I think it's about time that in our space we saw a few innovative models. The old-fashioned, traditional, decades-old model of raising finance from brokers, going cap in hand, getting cash, spending it on the ground, hoping that the sector will be buoyant and that you'll do something valuable so you can get more money. That's okay as a model. It's not inspirational. It's not going to put you in the most optimal position to make metal discoveries, and it's not going to be a business model that builds scale. I've watched the companies over the last 15 years and seen in the resource space and seen quite a few interesting models, some of which touch on elements of the business model that we have on the screen now. So Power acquires projects. We talked a little about that in the previous sessions. It does immediate exploration to take those projects up the value curve, or in some cases to dismiss projects because they're not as prospective as you might like. And then once we've got that information together, we've acquired an interest and we've done that initial work, we can make a decision. Do we want to put it into a spin out to create value for our business by taking a project package, putting it into its own vehicle and listing that vehicle, and in which Power Metal have a substantial stake? Or do we think it's more appropriate to take that project through our internal exploration? And we don't just have to do that by ourselves. We can also joint venture with partners while still keeping it as an internal exploration project. And that does two things for us. One, it means that we are constantly thinking ahead. We're funding and financing the business tomorrow by doing things today. Because as each vehicle spins out and we get value on that spin out when it lists, and that business does a good job, hopefully the markets are reasonably buoyant too, then each one of those spin outs could be worth a vast amount of money compared to our current working capital and compared to our current market cap. So if we're doing multiple spin outs, multiple listings, the amount of working capital that we're generating for the business could be quite enormous. And we've talked about, if it gets too enormous, we are looking at distributions back to shareholders too. But then the money that's generated by those spin-outs and the confidence that's generated in our business and its strong balance sheet will enable this company to attract all sorts of interest and potentially finance at much, much, much higher levels than would be the case if we were simply cap in hand every month, or every 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, like a typical junior going for working capital from brokers. So that's in essence where we're coming from with our financing.
Okay, that's great. And of course, we spoke about the spin-outs on Monday, but here we have examples of how the financing model is currently working and in action. Can you talk us through this, please, Paul?
Yeah, sure. So as a business, it's not just spin-outs that can generate us additional capital. It's also, we have an investment portfolio. And that's been really successful. And the investment portfolio has specific shares that we disclose, like Kavango Resources and Katoro. But it also has a junior resource investment fund behind it, where we don't talk about the individual companies. It's a pool of capital started with 75,000 that we've deployed in the market. Now, I know from my own experience in previous cycles, many investors actually make tens times their original money invested, and potentially you can make even more than that. So we thought, given that we are quite lowly valued, the sector as a whole, having a modest investment portfolio was a good idea. So we set up the Power Metal Junior Resource Investment Fund. On top of that, you've got the pre-IPO investment. So these are the spin-out vehicles or disposals that are going into their own listings. And there are 4 of them: New Ballarat Gold Corporation, Victoria, Australia; First Class Metals, Hemlo Schreiber, Ontario, Canada; Golden Metal Resources, Nevada, USA; and First Development Resources, focused on the Patterson and uranium rare earths projects, the CELTA project in the Northern Territory in Australia. Now, if you look at the valuations of those individual packages at the moment, we don't have one technically for New Ballarat Gold, but it's circa 2,300 square kilometres of total licence application and granted footprint in Victoria Goldfields. It's a valuable project package. But First Class Metals, our value is just over £1 million at the moment, and that vehicle's going into its own IPO listing hopefully very soon. Golden Metal Resources, we recently did the pre-IPO financing at a core valuation for Power Metal's interest of circa 3.25 million. And First Development Resources, we recently acquired an additional project, the CELTA project, and we did it for stock in FDR, giving Power Metal's core FDR holding a value of circa £2.5 million. So these are chunky sums because these are pre-IPO, and you would expect a reasonable but not crazy increase on listing. And if these business packages do the job, which they will, I believe, on listing, you can expect in a reasonable market potentially a considerable uplift in valuation. And I think most of these vehicles, potentially all of them, should be absolutely A-star business performers. They will do the right things. They will invest in the right projects. They will invest money in the ground. They will publish their findings and communicate the results to market. And they will do all the things that are needed to see an appreciation in share price and market value. Now, if you take that schedule, Alan, and you push forward 2 years, I think there may well be 2 or 3 pages like this, because we have other potential disposals and spin-outs that we can do from our very extensive package. And in fact, when you look at the entirety of our current business, and you look at the pipeline that's available to this business now, which most people don't see, there is a possibility for us to create multiple examples, additional opportunities to create value, and then build this portfolio over the next probably 12 to 18 months.
Excellent. That's a very exciting glimpse into the future there for the Power Metal business model. So, Paul, once again, thank you for explaining that to us, and we look forward to speaking to you tomorrow to talk about group strategy.
Thanks, Alan.